Hey everybody, it's Tom from Vehicle Visionary. I hope you're having a great day. I'm sitting in the driver's seat of the 2026 Honda CR-V, and whether you go hybrid or non-hybrid, you will now find this 9-inch touchscreen as being standard across all models. The 7-inch no longer available. Something that has also changed is you'll notice the minimalization of this screen compared to what we've seen in the past. Now, for those of you that want to see all of the different icons that used to be here, you can still get that, but you're going to have to go to the top trim level with the CR-V Hybrid Sport Touring. One thing that has changed also is that the power flow meter is no longer on the screen unless you go with that Hybrid Sport Touring version. However, it is here on the driver's display. And so what I'm going to do, if you don't see this menu that I've brought up on the left-hand side of the screen, we push the home button right here to bring that up. And then I'm going to click in using the scroll wheel into the power flow meter area. And that's where you're going to bring that up. So for those of you that were wondering about that, that is now the situation. So we're going to work our way down here. Range and fuel economy. I don't need to tell you too much about what is there. You know what's there. However, if you do want to reset everything, you can do that down there. That's how we're going to do that. We're going to push the scroll wheel, come up here to reset. I'm not going to do that right now. We're going to cancel that. And then we hit the home button again, just right here. There's your home button. There's your scroll wheel. Use that to go back and forth and to click into a menu, just like what we have here as far as this information goes with speed and all of that. That's all I do is push the scroll wheel, and I can do that. And to reset that, I push the scroll wheel again. If we wanted to do that, we're going to leave that like it is. We're going to come back out by hitting the home button right there and go into audio just real quick to show you what's here. Now, we don't have a device connected yet. I will shortly. But if you're using AM, FM, USB, Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, or Android Auto, that's where you're going to come and select that. We're going to go back out of that. And I will show you what happens when you do connect a device later in the video. Phone information, again, not right there because nothing is connected at the moment. If you're wanting to know about that, there's where that is located. Now, how about seat belts? All that's going to do is let you know who does or doesn't have their seatbelt on, depending on whether or not somebody is sitting in a particular seat. Since I'm the only person here, that's why the driver's seat is highlighted in red, because I don't have my seatbelt on at the moment. In case you were curious about that. Maintenance is going to be right here. All you're going to have is oil life. It tells you that it's at 70%. And then we scroll on down to safety support. So we're going to click into that. And here's what we're going to have. We're going to click in and scroll through, depending on what features you want to have on. If something is off, such as it's not checked just like that, then we're going to turn that on and off just like that. So depending on which one of these options you want on, you can turn them off and on just like that. We go back up to that arrow, and that allows us to come back to that main menu. And then we hit the home button to come back to this particular screen. Now, there's no content right here. If you want to adjust the brightness of the screen, we hit the scroll wheel once, and then we start scrolling, and that brings this screen up. So we can change the brightness if we want to do that. And to get back out of this screen, we're just going to hit the home button. That brings us back right here. Now, Vehicle Stability Assist, that's what this is. If you want that to be on or off, here's where you're going to come to turn that on and off. And we're going to come right here to this screen. We scroll into it. Then we scroll down to this option. We hit the scroll wheel, we push on the scroll wheel, and that is now on or off, depending on what we want. If it's checked like it is, that means it's obviously on. And then we come back here and we hit the home button again to come back to our main screen. Now, as far as vehicle settings go, there is quite a bit here. So, your tire pressure monitoring system, if you need to calibrate that, let's say that it got really cold and your tire pressure went down and you had to air your tires back up to what they're supposed to be, here's where you're going to come to get rid of that warning. So you're just going to hit calibrate right there, and that will take care of that. You just let it do its thing and you're good to go. It doesn't take very long. We go back and that is taken care of. Now, there are quite a few things here as far as that goes. Drive assist system setup, depending on what you need to go into. Forward collision warning device. We're going to come in here. You can set that to normal. You can set it to short, or we can go back depending on what we want to do. You've got long as well. There we go. We're going to go back And we're going to come back in here and go back to this screen. Now, let me run back to where I was real fast, just so we can show you the rest of what is there. I'm not going to show you everything like I did right there, but just so you can see, this is where we're going to find things such as adaptive cruise control and different features and functionality like that. Blind spot information system right there. Depending on what you want, if you want your traffic sign recognition, we can click into that and we can turn that on, or we can turn it off, and you can go through and see what else is here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this particular area, but depending on what you need to see and change, here is everything that is here as far as your different features. Your traffic sign recognition system is going to be here, adaptive cruise control, all of that will be here. So we're going to go back out of that and go back to our main screen and come back in here one more time just to go through and see what else we have. Just so you know where different things are. Meter setup is going to be here. We're also going to have keyless access setup. So very simple. You have your door unlock mode. You can go in there and either unlock the driver's door only or all doors. Next, we will come to lighting setup. I'll show you what is going on here. If you want to turn on your auto high beams, this is where you're going to do it. You can just turn that on and leave it on, or you can turn it off. Some people like that, some people don't. It depends on if I'm on the highway or not, if I leave mine on. You will also find interior light dimming time. You can adjust that to however long you want it to be. Headlight auto off time. So when you get out of the vehicle, you can set how long that's going to be. Again, just by clicking into that menu and making the changes you want. Auto light sensitivity will also be here. So we can change that to mid, high. You can go to max. And you can also go to minimum. So one of those things that's going to make life a little bit easier as far as features go, just going in and finding everything that it is that you need. And something you might not know is here is headlight auto off timer. You can change the time on that, on how long that's going to go. You may want to even go all the way to 60 seconds with that. You can go to 30 seconds. You can go to 15 seconds, which is the default. You can also adjust auto light sensitivity. And here's one that's very important. I recommend leaving this on. Anytime you turn your windshield wipers on, you can come to this particular section and determine if your headlights will come on with the wipers, which, believe it or not, actually is a law, I believe, all across the United States. I may be wrong about that, but I believe it is a law everywhere you go. After lighting setup comes door setup. Some very important things you may want to know about here as far as auto door lock and auto door unlock. We're also going to have the walk away feature, the walk away auto lock, for those of you that want to turn that on and off, and keyless lock answer back. This is where all these things are going to be found. I know there's a lot here. I'm trying to keep this from being too long of a video, but for those of you that are wondering where some of these features are, that's why we're running through all of this. And you'll also find climate control setup. So depending on how you want to set things up with the climate control, what you want to turn on and off and how you want it to work, this is where we're going to find all of that here in the driver's display area. We'll go into gauge display settings, and there are a few things to talk about here. You can go in here and add different things on the driver's display depending on what you do or don't want to see. Some of these are grayed out because they're not available on this particular model. We'll go back here, and that is what you're going to have where that is concerned. If you have any warnings to look at, they're going to be found right here. There are none at the moment, as you can see. And we're back to the power flow meter. So we run through everything as far as that goes. Now we're going to pair our smartphone, and then we'll come back to this, to the driver's display, and I can show you a couple of things that I couldn't show you earlier. There's a few different ways to get to the screen where you can pair your smartphone when you first start the vehicle. In fact, this really should be done at the dealership. Your salesman should help you with that. But if that doesn't happen, or if you need to pair a new phone, you can come right here and we can go to connect new device. And it's going to walk you through the process of what you need to do. I'm just going to go right here to Bluetooth, and then we scroll all the way to the bottom. The process will be the same as far as the Apple or Android devices go. Since I have an iPhone, We're going to be doing this with my iPhone, obviously, but you can see how this ultimately works. Now we have the pairing request going. We're going to give that just a few seconds, and then you'll have Connect to CarPlay come up. We're going to select Connect on the screen right there. We'll select Yes right here, and then you can see that it's going to complete the pairing process. It might take a few seconds depending on your situation, but we're finished as far as that goes. And now that I have something actually playing, I can go into audio and you can see what is playing. Now it says 2024 Range Rover Vehicle Visionary down there. That's because I have this video playing on my phone, and that way you can see what's going on where that is concerned. Now that's not all that we can do here. We can go in and change what we're listening to, whether it's Bluetooth or Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, USB, and we have AM and FM. And we come back out of audio down here to phone, and now I can show you what's going on as far as that goes. We can scroll to favorite contacts. Now I don't have anything there at the moment, so you won't see anything, but this is where you would see that. And then we can go down to recent calls. That's where that information is going to be found. And then we can go back out of that, and there is where we are. Now that's what you have as far as this goes. There's not a lot to talk about there, but now we move on to the center screen. Couple of important points here. Number one, I'm going to let you hear what the audio sounds like. And for those of you that said, Tom, in my previous videos, I'm really disappointed that Honda did away with Sirius XM radio. All you have to do is have it on your phone with the app, and guess what? You can still listen via Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and you're good to go where that is concerned. To go back to the main screen, we just hit the home button. You only have a couple of things going on here. This is one of the other ways you can connect the phone, is hit the connect button right there. Obviously, you have your knob right here for listening to the radio. But the screen, like I said, fairly minimalistic, not as much going on here. For some people, that might be a really good thing. In fact, we really don't have a lot else to talk about besides going into settings right here. We're going to do that right here just so you can see what's going on. So here's what we have. System. Quite a few things here. Date and time, language. If you need to do a factory data reset, you can do that right here. You can see that there's a couple more things. We can scroll up to get down to those things as far as your touchpad sensitivity and the legal information. If you want to go in and read your legal information, here's where you're going to do that. The handy dandy back option is right there on the screen. We can also come right here to connections to manage our connections. If you want to delete a phone, well, here's where you do that. You just come right here to delete. All of that other information is going to be right there. I likely don't need to tell you too much about that, but that is where we manage our connections. Then we come down here, a few more things. We have display. We're going to come in here. If you want to increase or decrease the brightness, you can change the contrast. You can also change the black level. I don't know why you'd want to turn the display off, but you could right there. You can reset everything to default, as you can see right there. So we come back out of here. We go to data sharing with Honda. Now, you can disable that if you want to. It just depends on what your personal preference is where that is concerned. Now, here's something that's very important. How about sound? If you want to adjust the sound for everything as far as the bass, the mid-range, and the treble, that's where you're going to come to do that. You obviously click in right there, and there are your different options depending on how you want things to sound. We can come into balance and fade right here. That's going to let you know based on the graphic that's on the screen. If you want to change everything, which I accidentally did right there, we're going to put that back towards the middle and get that right. But you can change that left and right, however you want to do things. Now I'm going to come back out of this screen because here's something you might not realize is here. Speed volume compensation. Depending on how much noise you're getting from the exterior of the vehicle, wind noise, road noise from the tires, different things like that, you can actually set the volume to change automatically depending on how much noise is coming in. We're going to leave that set as it is at mid, but you can see that all you have to do is go right there and just select whatever it is you want to. So that's kind of a neat little thing. And sound volume, quite a few different things here too to talk about. System sounds, you're going to have voice recognition. If something here, such as your navigation guidance, is too low or it's too high, this is where you're going to come to adjust that. Your ringtone will be the same way, and phone calls. And so we come back out of that. In fact, we need to come back in here to this screen. Now, obviously, you have your rear view camera, so there are a couple of little things you're going to have here that you can change if you want to. Your fixed guideline, if you want that on and off, your dynamic guideline, cross traffic monitor is going to be there. So depending on whether you want those things on or off, those are going to be your options. We're going to leave all of that turned on because those are very important. And then we come out back to this particular screen. And obviously, pretty simple. I think you know about this, but if you need to go to your Apple CarPlay screen, in my case, or Android Auto, this is where we're going to do that. We can scroll through. You can bring up navigation right here. And if you want to do that, depending on what you need to do, you can also select right here to bring that up. And you don't have to go into settings to change things such as your sound. We can come right back here to do that. You can see what's on the screen as far as that goes. So if you want to tune the audio to sound a certain way, you can do that. And audio source is also going to be found right here, just the same way we saw it on the driver's display. You'll also be able to go between the different available audio sources. And ultimately, that is a tour of the technology here in this CR-V. I hope that helps somebody out. If there's something I didn't cover that you're curious about, tell me down in the comments section. I appreciate all of you for being kind enough to take the time to watch. If you want to learn about additional vehicles, check out the video that's on the screen right now, and I'll see you there.